Rolling credits. Jesus Loves Your History by Ashlie, Christie. That's what we'll be reading today. The actor you see here before you, Ashlie Christie. Nice to meet you. I went by a different name when I was working on Independence and things. Ashlie Nolan. Went to Ivan Markota's Vanmar Academy of Motion Picture and Television Acting School. It's very close to the Grauman's Chinese Theater. There's a lot of stuff going on outside. You're going to hear people walk by, cars driving, planes, whatever. Honestly, whatever happens, you'll just experience it. There is going to be no post-production done in this film. So, enjoy. And my throat is so scratchy, so that's going to be another layer of fun here. It's a vitamin C packet in water. I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey. And see how I do. I apologize in advance for my lack of accurate accent play. I will recast when I can afford more than just myself. And this will be a 3-part play, novella. It's written as a novella, however, I'd like it also to be a 3-part play. Jesus Loves Your History. The personal steps. It's the first 3 steps. Forgiveness, uncomfortable changes, and letting go. Now, in this particular instance, letting go revolves around free marketing and free cycling. But letting go can mean a lot of different things. It doesn't just have to be physical. All right, so let's begin. Introduction. It was a reflective ride. Noah had come a long way since he first found the book. From owning his own car and working for the church, to pushing his muscles to their string bean limits on a motorless bike, and printing things for a living, and lots of uncomfortable changes. Feeling the wind on his face as he pedaled idly through the town back to his place was the only thing forcing him to relax despite himself. As he entered the apartment, he could feel the warmth and love. Noah was finally home, and this was his family. Hank was sitting at the kitchen table looking at his wristwatch as Ash stood facing the kitchen counter, making herself a cup of instant coffee. It was a surreal moment for Noah. The author of the book that changed his life was in his home, drinking his instant, chatting with his houseless friend Hank. "Hey, pal, took you long enough. You are late. You'll be happy to know Ash already knows her way around your kitchen and made us dinner. Hope you like vegan." Hank spoke as if addressing someone known to him since birth. Noah wanted this moment to just last forever. So, in his true-to-random form, Noah took a mental picture for years to come. "You all right with aubergine?" Ash stirred a bit of cinnamon and vanilla into Noah's pug mug, and then took a seat to the left of Hank. Honestly, I have no clue what that even is. Noah had no problem admitting ignorance. He believed it saved everyone time and energy. Eggplant. Hank smiled as he took a sip of his jasmine tea. Noah remembered Hank spouting off at the flea market about drinking coffee with them that evening in celebration, and Noah was not going to let it go for nothing. I thought you were going to have coffee with us, Hank. Yeah, after dinner. The response was surprising to Noah. Hank was never one to compromise, not even for a woman. I've heard about this. Putting his body in motion, taking off Prince William's leash, Noah moseyed over to the kitchen table to join his company. This is what it must feel like if hell freezes over. The three laughed, and Ash slid her fresh cuppa in front of Noah as a gesture of kindness and affinity for her new kindred spirit. So, Noah, I am curious. How did you come to find a copy of me book? Ash stood up and turned on the hot water kettle as she pulled out another mug. It was the one Mother bought him when she visited Greece. Noah contemplated her choice of words and coffee receptacle. Well, I'm not sure you would approve of who I was when I happened upon your written words. Noah looked down at his coffee and then at the floor. Well, I'm not sure you'd approve of who I was when I wrote the feckin' thing. Ash smiled. Noah thought her Irish accent was entrancing, the bad words making her even more so. Noah shook his head. Doubtful. True story. Ash raised up her left hand and put her right on top of her coffee cup. Hypocrite to the maximum level. Finished pouring a new cup, she sat back between her new friends. I'm a firm believer that if we preach what we need to learn the most, and then hopefully we learn the lesson before it's too late. Hank was staying out of this one, refusing to give his young pal any hint or direction for what he should say or do. Fuck it, fine, if you really want to know. There was an internal struggle about where Noah felt he should begin. Noah knew where he should start, but he was scared Ash would hate him, or at least never look at him the same. You tell me yours, and I'll tell you mine. Ash winked. Picking up the perfectly rolled doobie from the center of the table, Noah lit it up and exhaled to light the embers without just setting fire to the paper. Every movement was a sign of growth and an ever-evolving young man. All right, here goes nothing. It was a dark and dreary night, and as usual, I was overdressed for the occasion. That's where we meet them. All right. Dear reader, before diving into who Noah was and the roads he would take to get where he ends up, where you find him with Hank and Ash, you need to be made aware of a few things. First of all, the moments leading up to Noah acquiring the book that would rock his proverbial world were probably some of the ugliest ones. Reaching his personal bottom is not pretty to watch. And apologies for this. However, without understanding his personal deconstruction, you will never fully be in a position to appreciate the beautiful being that Noah is. Like so many of us today, Noah finds himself lost and drowning in the societal web constructed for us all, which we are told is for our own good. When he finally stops accepting his daily dose of societal medicine and starts to pick up and examine the broken pieces of his socially acceptable life, I love it, she's yelling in Italian. It's fabulous. What a perfect time to walk by. When he finally stops accepting his daily dose of social medicine and starts to pick up and examine the broken pieces of his socially acceptable life, well, I'll let you decide if the changes were for the best. So, without further delay and as your self-appointed story guide, I have decided to soften the blow by recalling such a story from a mostly unbiased outsider's point of view. Now, if you must still hate him, love him with that same blind passion. Balance has a way of keeping things in perspective, even if the two sides are sometimes found in the extremes. Kindest regards, your devoted pendulum rider, into the mystic, Ash. We begin our story here. Anyone who has walked the Camino de Santiago knows what this is. Let's continue on our pilgrimage. Chapter 1. The Church Meeting. Well, I think it's a good idea. Yes, 1,000 is a lot of money for the parish to part with, but we would all benefit. Plus, how exciting to have such a prominent political figure in our church. Sue puffed out her chest as she stood, unnecessarily. Had the world gone absolutely batty? $1,000 for a seminar on how to pay a tax on breathing? The more Noah thought about it, the worse it got for him, in his own mind. It was frustration. And then it was like an anger. Festering at first, and then rolling into a boil. Are these people for real? His face had a placid facade. Not confident he wouldn't explode, Noah excused himself unassumingly. It was a late-night meeting, and the bathroom down the hallway was next to never used at that hour. The motion sensor lights turned on after a short flicker. Noah checked under each stall for feet to put his hyperactive mind at ease. He knew no one was in there. Palms firmly pressed on the edge of the sink, elbows locked in tension, legs dense as marble. Smushed father's old Sunday penny loafers, his feet were sweaty and sore after a full day of walking, all over the church compound, back and forth. Noah looked right as his reflection, but all he could see was just pure hatred. He just got like that sometimes, unable to predict what he would do or say, removing himself from certain situations, such as this, seemed best. The stupidity of people drove him fucking mad, and he hated every single one of them. Not one of them could last one meeting without looking at their latest electronic devices if they tried, let alone manage to actually give a shit about any one of the many sinners and perceived saints they gathered to discuss at this Wednesday night meeting, or any of our meetings for that matter. They all just sit there in their fancy suits and dresses, smug, self-righteous. Noah took a deep breath and continued his inner monologue with equal passion. Why would these people ever consider inviting a politician and a taxman to speak at our church, let alone pay them to do so? This tax is a sin all on its own. Helpful? Sincere? Ha! This is laughable. Noah knew he should say something. He also knew it would make a difference. He also knew it wouldn't make a difference. There was structure when Father was alive and when he worked at the local worship center. There was at least a clear sense of what was right and wrong. That was all gone to the bin and taken straight to the dumpster for disposal. Compromising beliefs to suit the whims of a sickly society? Where is this world headed? How would Jesus react if he found out his devoted followers were in the proverbial bedsheets with the local parasitic tax collectors and corrupt inbred purchased politicians? Jesus was angered when he saw business and politics being conducted in the sacred house of worship of his day. Noah was expected to not only tolerate it, but support it all without question. Satan was present at this Wednesday night meeting, and Noah would take no more part in it. He stared into his own soul, seething, unable to communicate. Noah knew full well that each personal agenda they held close to their chests wouldn't allow the ears and the brain to hear his reasoning, even if he channeled the Lord himself in the dead language of their professed Savior, Jesus Christ. Nostrils flaring, lips pursed, jaw clenched. Then came the out-loud self-talk. That was slow and quiet. I'm so sick of them. All of them. Our congregation is already hurting. And these idiots want to squeeze the last ounce of blood out of every one of us. For what? A bullshit appearance by our latest political slob? To talk about what? Taxing the poor, taxing the sick, taxing us all just to breathe fucking air. I'd be surprised if the Bushes, the Koch brothers, or any of the large Monsanto-type corporations actually pay a dime, or if we're all expected to cover their pollution too. Since when do these assholes have a monopoly on oxygen? Father warned me about this, and I didn't want to believe it. What a fucking nightmare. It was definitely strange, but Noah justified it while comparing his vice to those of others. If the occasional bad word and socially empathetic eye made him strange, Noah didn't mind. The money gathered to help the homeless, what a fucking joke. His voice began to raise. Not one person, including GQ politician in there, actually gives a shit about the homeless. Common sense dictates that not one single penny of that stupid tax will ever land in the hand of the homeless, alcoholic, drug-addicted, schizoid American, as I know these hypocrites all call them outside of church. Noah was so angry that it rendered him immobile. He wanted to run, scream, and throw something even, but all he could do was just stand in that stupid, over-teched bathroom. The motion sensor light switched off and left the hall in complete darkness. Taking a deep, drawn-out breath, Noah ran his fingers and hands over his face and through his hair, trying to shake the hate out of his mind, like physically. The light switched back on, unnoticed. Enough was enough. He walked back down the long hall, opened the door, and stared at all the self-absorbed sheeple. Everyone gradually looked up at Noah. You okay there, buddy? You look ill. The insurance salesman, Dale, smiled his greasy smile, as he did his best impersonation of a sincere human being. Noah wanted to walk over and throw up his leftover Chinese dinner on Dale's slick Rick hair. Yeah, I'm not feeling so good. I'm gonna go home early. Sorry, everyone. Packing up his bag and heading out the door, he half-heartedly said his farewells. Night, everyone. God bless. Over the years, Noah got really good at masking his thoughts and feelings. It's business as usual, he thought. He walked over to his beat-up Jesus freak wagon, pulled out his God Loves Me keychain, and then proceeded with his daily ritual of jimmying his car key in the passenger side door. He wasn't sure why he even locked it. Maybe it was Mother's voice playing like a broken record in his brain. Safety first, Noah. It was a piece of crap. But Noah couldn't afford to get any major work done on Mother's hand-me-down station wagon. And heck, he could barely afford his rent these days, after the church cut his hours down to 3 days a week. They told him the church was low on funds and would be using more volunteers to cover his other hours, and the hours of most of the full-time staff. 0-hour contracts were a nightmare of slave labor proportions, and Noah knew he was being lied to. First, add-ons to the church offices cost a pretty penny. 2, he saw the church tithe books only 3 weeks before, and 3, he also knew a few people who were giving themselves raises. But what could Noah do about it? So as usual, he smiled and said thank you, and went home to scream in his pillow. Anyway, back to the night of the meeting. Noah drove through the town on his way back to his apartment. He was still frustrated, and now it was building to resentment. His teeth and fists, lips were all tightly clenched. Thoughts of driving into a building crossed his mind, but he quickly reminded himself, life was God's to take, not his own. Plus, he was too scared to follow through. Pills? Not a guarantee that some asshole with a hero complex wouldn't find him and call an ambulance or pump his stomach right there on the spot. Hanging or wrist slitting? That's too painful and messy. Also, not a guaranteed sure thing. A gun? Not even an option. Knowing Noah's luck, he'd miss, and besides, who would look after his dog and all his potted plants? By the time Noah had finished talking himself off the ledge, he never would have jumped off. He had realized he was already home. What a horrible day. He honestly wasn't sure if he could take much more of this. He walked his dog to the end of the block and back in a daze. Went inside, loosened the noose he had professionally knotted strategically around his neck, took off his socially acceptable uniform of a suit, and climbed into bed. Why couldn't life make more sense? With this, Noah finally slept. So that's pretty intense. I know I've gotten myself to a place where I didn't want to exist anymore. In fact, it's happened a number of times. And I always managed to talk myself off the ledge. And I think it's because deep down, I truly believe that if we all stick it out and we all just try a little bit, we could flip things around for the better. You know that sort of way? And I guess that's why I wrote the book in the first place. A friend of mine once said, because I was talking in generalities, I was saying they and, whatever, and she says, why don't you speak for yourself? Don't lump everybody together in one giant goo, Talk about yourself. And it got me thinking that we have to start with ourselves, right? When it comes to healing the world, you have to heal the world within you before you can see any change or improvement in the world outside of you, right? Shameless plug for Boss Blessings and Beauty Boxes. This is one of the fragrance oils with flower bits inside. It's really beautiful. Rosehip oil. It's nice on your skin. www.bossblessingsbeautyboxes.com. Shameless plug. Commercial break. Oh, and www.jesuslovesyourhistory.com. I have a few others, but I don't know if I'll plug those here. I might. Alright, Chapter 2. Mahjong and Whiskey. On the other side of town, a heated game of mahjong was underway. 4 at the table, always 4. Marble tiles are engraved beautifully with Chinese characters and designs. The men were 8 rounds in, and emotions were high as all 8 of the men's hands were washing the tiles to prepare for the next round. Moving the tiles face down on the mahjong table was a ritual, like smoking a cigarette or playing the lotto, a ritual for relief. It was the back room of Lucky Palace, It was always the same place, same time, same familiar faces, and same stakes. No pay, no play, a gambler's paradise. It was Tommy's turn to deal, and keeping with tradition, he pressed his hands together, bowed to the table before swiftly breaking down the first wall of tiles. All was the same as it should be. There was comfort in consistency, all except one man, one new face. Usually a new face at the table didn't upset the balance, but for whatever reason and the way the stars aligned that particular evening, this new face was off-putting, at the very least. It was more than his face that offset the balance on this particular night. It was his energy. Shifty, aggressive, cocky. There were certain unspoken agreements, certain unspoken agreed-upon codes of conduct, a sort of gentleman's agreement. It was unclear whether the young man was unaware of them or just quarrelsome. Either way, you could cut the tension with a knife that evening. It was that thick. At first, it was just the young man's energy, the way he shifted in his seat, the way he kept saying, "So it's like that," anytime a tile was pulled from the center discard pile. Smoking was allowed, but the young man was taking it too far. Light, 3 puffs, stand up, walk behind his chair, lean in, blow his smoke at the center of the table, sit back down and put the partly smoked cigarette out. All just to start this rote behavior again when a fresh stick of tobacco. And not just any brand either. Reds. Marlboro Reds. And when he wasn't smoking, he was playing with his lighter, flicking the fucking thing and playing with the fire like a maniacal gleam in his eye, with a maniacal gleam in his eye. Tommy was the most zen amongst the 3 other men at the table. It was as if the young man wasn't even there. For the other 2 men at the table, peace wasn't coming so easy to him. Yi, a middle-aged businessman who was usually the king of calm, started nervously moving his left leg up and down, and tapping one of his tiles on the table like an over-caffeinated schoolboy. Hank, the 4th and most methodical player, appeared to be taking it the hardest. Agitations were brewing. Hank didn't know how Tommy was able to keep so calm. This young man was pushing Hank's nerves to their callous cold limitations. Tolerance was almost extinguished. Playing with fire was the last straw. Hank was officially triggered. Desperate to remain calm, Hank flagged down the waiter for another whiskey. For all the obvious reasons, this was the worst possible choice. Because while usually capping himself at 4, Hank was well past his magic number, and it was beginning to show. Finishing the shot glass as fast as he received it, Hank slammed it on the table. The composed drinker morphed into the damaged alcoholic he normally did his best to hide, and would take no prisoners that night. Shite was about to get real. You want to see that picture again, now that you've heard it? You motherfucker. Stop! I thought she did a really good job on that. So I have a few, commercial ad break. I have a few artists I'd like to say thank you to. Okay. So it was written by me, both in Ireland and here in the US. Well, I'm from the US, but I wrote most of it in Ireland. It was edited by Doris Foster, who is a Nigerian woman. The layout design was done by Mr. Hamad in the UK. Cover art and page border art by Alia Tabassum in India. Internal artists include Yvette Gilbert from the UK. She did Ash and Her Cuppa. Marta Zarocka from Poland did Noah's Dream and Mahjong Life, so the Mahjong Life I just showed you. Kissa Mareña from Chile. She did Bookstore Gentleman, Yang Printmaster, Ali and Ahmed, GQ Lovebirds, The Gift of Marigold, Prince William in Motion 1-6. And my current hubby, Houston William, in the USA, did Jesus Wagon, God Loves Me Keychain. I typoed that, and Pug Mug. Although Jesus Wagon and God Loves Me Keychain didn't make it in, Pug Mug did. It was just time. It was time constraints for no other reason. In the second edition, I'm sure he'll do both of those and maybe even redo the Pug Mug one if he would like to. I might let everybody redo their art if they'd like to for the next edition. Maybe. And then I have a special thank you to my ex-husband, Ricardo, in Ireland, because without his help listening to the chapters over and over, this would not have been written as well. Like, there's so many people that contributed to this, even people who didn't realize they contributed. And then I put a little note here: no matter who you are, where you come from, how you go about changing, Jesus loves who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. Be gentle with yourself and others. You never know who you are talking to, as God is within us all. And children are worth changing for. Let us commit to changing ourselves for the children in our lives. It is with them, for them, and through them we see the potential of heaven for us all. When I spoke to the artists, I told them they could use their spirit animal energy instead of their human form if they wanted to within the art. And Kissa really embodied that whole thing. And I think she did an amazing job. Okay. Chapter 3. Yes, Chapter 3. A Mother's Boundaries. Do I have anything to bang on? I'm literally at my front door, but I'm not going to. Bang, 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 bang. Noah, open this door at once. Don't leave your poor mother outside in this neighborhood. Noah's mother had a voice that could curdle milk and probably shatter glass if she put her mind to it. He opened one dry eye and saw a blurry 5:03 a.m., the bright red numbers on his old alarm clock slowly blinking. On and off, on and off. Eyes shut. Bang, bang, bang! Noah, if you're not awake, you should be, young man. Early worm. Do I need to call Fred? Fred was Noah's landlord. I told you, there's going to be a lot of background noise. Perfectly imperfect. Same as the book, same as life. Same as this movie. You know? We'll take this opportunity. To have a sip of water. I should have brought I don't think I even have. I need Vaseline. You put that on the inside, like here and here, and it keeps your lips from attaching to your teeth when you're doing theater or film or music or runway, whatever. It actually works really well. I learned that in pageantry. I'm not going to stop recording.
I need to get water.
Go ahead. They can't see you. The door's not on camera. Oh no.
Yeah, I need water.
Oh man. Okay, grab it.
They look really pretty.
Thank you. Okay. I told you. Alright. Where were we? Let me use this to put up a little. Let's try this again. Where were we? I should probably wait. Do I need to call Fred? Fred was Noah's landlord, an old friend of Noah's father. Still lying in bed, an unseen eye roll took place under his very heavy eyelids. Knowing his options were slim to one, Noah opened his eyes and turned to face his miniature dachshund, Prince William, who stared back under his little furry eyebrows almost as if to say, "Is this woman for real? Doesn't she know what time it is?" Noah answered back out loud to his pooch, "I know, buddy. Trust me, I know." Out of bed, shuffled to the door and open, he usually let his front door unlocked. He had no interest in arguing with Mother over his safety at 5 in the morning, or any morning for that matter. "Guten Morgen, Mother." "What's that mean?" "Madden ma, Joel regelt, Dobro riano." "No? How about buenos dias?" "Speak English, Noah." "It means good morning, Mother. They all mean good morning." Noah could see he was getting nowhere. Forget it. Hurling past him, opening all of his blinds, it was as if Noah wasn't even there. One eye still closed, he made his way over to his coffee machine and switched it on. Obnoxious sounds at war. Prince William followed Noah into the kitchen, stretched and yawned as Mother gave her sharp, disapproving look. "What a spoiled dog," she said. "So what's up, Mother?" Noah replied. As if ready for her Broadway performance, she spoke her lines with ease. "I went to your father's grave this morning. Do you know what today is? I bet you forgot." Noah opened his mouth to answer, but she kept going on without breaking for air. "Your father died today 4 years ago. Are you still going?" Slight pause. "You have to visit your father, Noah. When the good Lord takes your dear old mother, you will not be blessed with these reminders, I swear. If your head wasn't attached to your shoulders, you'd forget that too." Ah, theatrical sigh. "I can't believe you made me swear. Swearing is so very unchristian, Noah. Now look what you made your poor mother do." Mother was pacing his apartment, looking at every inch with her disapproving eye. "When was the last time you dusted in here?" Noah didn't bother trying to answer. "No matter, I'm heading over to your Aunt Judy's. You need to clean this place and go visit your father today. Cleanliness is next to godliness. You weren't raised in a barn." Noah's mother walked quickly over, kissed him on the forehead, and beelined it for the front door, slamming it behind her. 5:20 a.m. and coffee was made. It was a relatively painless visit. Noah couldn't bother himself with getting upset. His mother had no intention of changing. She saw nothing wrong with anything she ever did. She'd done this sort of stuff too many times to count. Now, wide awake, leash on PW grabbed his coat and cap. Now was a good time to walk to town as any. A donut from Smitty's Dough King would make being up this early worth it. The streets were still dark. It's almost a ghost town. Only 3 lights were on, street lamp, one storefront that Noah thought was still empty, the Smitty's. The prince, pepped for his morning walk, was smelling everything inside at nostril level. Noah tugged on the leash and walked them both across the road to check out the well-lit new addition to the town. Peering through the window, he could see an older gentleman stocking books on a freshly built oak wood bookshelf, the length and height of the wall. Front door wide open. Noah decided it looked pretty much open for business and walked them both inside. The gentleman was standing on a wooden wall ladder, whistling and humming Stairway to Heaven, which blasts through his headphones loud and clear. As if feeling a presence in his shop, the older gentleman spun around and removed his headphones and smiled wide. Perfect teeth. He was a dashing dresser, very well put together. He looked at Noah and a small dog as if he knew them, the sort of look one gives to long misplaced friends. "You look lost. Morning, son, come on in. Yeah, I have something for you, a free book for being my first visitor. Come on in. The water's fine and I ain't no biter." Practically hopping off the ladder, he jogged to the front counter without so much as skipping a beat. "Dog treats for the little fella?" Noah nodded his head, approving the gesture of kindness. The gentleman pulled a meat stick from a jar of random treats and tossed it down to Willie, who was standing on his hind legs and happy to partake. P.W. had a new best friend. "How's life, sir?" Initially shocked at being referred to as sir, Noah took a moment to reflect before laying his woes on the new cosmic friend's shoulders. Complicated? Noah then looked him square in the eye. I'm a bit depressed, actually." "You?" With a twinkle of knowing, the gentleman replied heartily, "Amazing! Absolutely fantastic. After subtracting all the things no one seems to care about anyway, like the fact that if an asteroid, a decent enough size, hits our beautiful life ball, we're all burnt toast anyway." A curious chuckle arose from his diaphragm as he dove into Noah's soul with a carefree glance. The gentleman continued as gentlemen do. "All right, I think I have just the book for you. I sense you're a fellow idealist, so you'll like this author. I'm sure of it." First checking the shelf near the register, then shuffling through the medium-sized box on the floor next to the counter. "Ah, here we are." The older gentleman handed a book to Noah. It looked like the cover was made from recycled paper bags, and all it said on it, in all lowercase letters, was, "A book. By me." After handing Noah the book, the gentleman smiled as he walked back to his ladder, leaving poor confused Noah with his thoughts. "Don't worry, sir. It'll all make more sense in the end." As the older gentleman was just about to put his headphones back on, he stopped and glanced over his shoulder as if to be heard clearly. "Life is shit, and then you die. There is or there isn't meaning to your living. All I know is this. Till my last dying breath, I will continue to plant apple trees, if only for the fuck of it, my dear sir. Every problem can be solved. It's just a matter of being brave enough to try, and selfless enough not to worry about what's in it for you at that moment. Read the book. The author is brilliant and beautifully optimistic for such a pessimist, and as for asteroids annihilating life as we know it, it doesn't have to be that way. There is always a solution when powerfully intelligent minds set their ego aside for the greater good. But son, we have to give these great minds a reason to fight for us. And you, reading that right there, what you have in your hand, I believe is one step closer to saving all our souls. It just takes one. And sir, never doubt that that one isn't you. Enjoy and don't come back till you finish what you came here for and be ready to report, or I will never sell you one of my books as long as we both shall live. Have a great morning." Headphones promptly back on. Conversation was clearly over, whether Noah wanted it to be or not. Noah turned around absolutely baffled and more confused than when he entered that oak fortress of knowledge and wisdom. Asteroids, a book to change the world, Led Zeppelin karaoke, and none of it made any sense. Noah slowly turned, walked out of the town's new bookstore, and headed back home. overwhelmed with a sense of peace for what seemed like the first time. Noah was determined to understand what the older gentleman was talking about. Smitty's was a distant memory, the new gift in hand. "Strange morning," he said to his short-legged friend. The winds shifted in his soul. A new dawning was on the horizon. Change was a-comin', ready or not. What chapter are we on? I don't remember. Next chapter. Breathe. This is a artwork done up for me by Marta in Poland. Marta? In Poland. And it's cut off. You can't see the church in the background because when Hamad was trying to do the layout, you had to be able to fit it with the border, and I understand why it got cut off, which is fine. I think in the next edition we'll be prepared and we'll fix that. But she has little bits of, you can see like expectations just, coming at him from every angle, and then you've got the dove of peace, and as he's well, you'll see, you'll hear. And his parents are up there. You just have to buy the book, right? Shameless plug. www.jesuslovesyourhistory.com. Breathe. He was 5 years old again. Both parents were towering over him in church. They were telling him he would lead the future generations closer to heaven on earth. His little heart started to pound with fear. I cannot lead. I am far from being good enough. I can't even control my own feelings half the time. Can't you hear me? I'm only 5. Noah was quite a self-aware young man in this dream. How can I lead anyone anywhere if I don't even know where I'm going? This is insane. Fear building inside. His parents moved in closer, gliding toward their frightened child, pushing an entire future on him without even consulting him first. He wasn't even close to being able to do what they asked of him. Didn't they care? Why weren't they listening or understanding? Why would they have bothered? Would they have bothered to listen to him if he was any other age? Would his future age earn him the respect he could not get while still 5? Age should not matter. Noah found himself running, constantly looking over his shoulder. His parents were gliding faster. He ran straight off a cliff. Falling, stomach dropping, his tiny little heart quieted. It's a moment of peace. This must be what birds feel like. Falling to his death, the fear morphed into a level of acceptance. As his poor little child-sized heart stopped, he awoke. Scene. It's just a dream sequence. Nothing too complicated. Here's the picture for the next chapter. Give a dog a bone. In case you haven't noticed, I highly enjoy sexual innuendos. Hey, God created it. Why can't we have a little bit of fun? The first step. Mouth wide open, screams replaced by gasps for fresh air. It was a beautiful, crisp morning, birds chirping poetically out his window. Grasping for moments, trying to remember his dream, and trying to make sense of it. Looking around, Noah stopped, gazing at his own tired reflection through the half-open bathroom door in the mirror above his rusted sink. Geez, I look beaten. He looked old, even to himself. Misery was written all over his face. Do I honestly think no one else can see this? Sitting up in bed, he fixed his pillow and stretched to reach a book that the kind older gentleman gave him just 2 mornings ago. His 3rd morning already halfway through, Noah was engrossed in every beautifully ideal thought the author expressed. His own notes were written in the margins, and questions were written on different colored post-its. Some marked pages of significance. It was 8 a.m., and after that crazy dream, he needed guidance. Ritualistic bibliomancy. Some people at his church called it Bible dipping, but this wasn't that. This wasn't that Bible. Have a question? Close your eyes. Point. Open your eyes. Read. Solution. After a dream like that, Noah was willing to try anything. Closing his eyes, focusing on his desire for some sense of direction, praying for insight, he placed a book flat on his hand, his left hand, right hand gently resting on the cover, randomly opening a book, pointing to a page. He slowly opened his eyes and read, Meditation Park! Huh? Looking at his hound dog, even more confused, he thought out loud, how's that meant to be helpful? Just to be sure, he started reading the section, and as expected, nothing stood out as useful. A pointless exercise, sure. Noah internally argued with himself. A local meditation park would be nice and relaxing on a morning such as this, but I need a miracle, not another dream. Noah needed the sort of miracle brought about by making real life-changing decision. But what could he change? Tense anxiety. He swept the book off his lap and onto the floor with a heavy, deep sigh, startling his dog into a riled-up bark monster. Ears flying in the air like a superhero hound, Prince William jumped off the bed, landed, and tripped over the book, knocking it open. Noah flung half his body over the side of his bed, hoping his dog wasn't hurt. PW was fine, sitting next to the book, looking up at his frazzled owner, and then looking down at the open pages. The first personal step. Forgiveness meetings. Hold on. I need honey. I need honey, honey. Yum. Meditation park. No. The first personal step, forgiveness meetings. That's where we were. A smile crept over Noah's lips. You are an instrument of the Lord, Willie. Good dog. 20 minutes after receiving his divine instruction, Noah shuffled to his kitchen and poured a steaming cup of his favorite organic blend into his pug of a mug. The pug's face was overly happy, wide-eyed, and ready for the day. Noah was not there yet. Nostrils resting over the ledge of his coffee cup, he took several deep meditative breaths. Waking up slowly was a nice indulgence. 24 years old, looking like an 80-year-old. Noah had the world resting firmly on his shoulders, whether he liked it or not. And this was not gravity's fault. As he was glancing over at his calendar, there were 2 very distinct choices for his day. 1, stick with his weekly Saturday church appointments, which is easy, comfortable, and familiar, yet killing his soul at a pretty steady pace. Or 2, try out the first personal step in a book. Way out of his comfort zone, unfamiliar and downright scary. But he wasn't sure it could be much worse than his first option. He took a long drag from his vaporizing pen, and then, surprising even himself, he chose what was behind door number 2. And having portions of that same creepy nightmare 3 nights in a row, Noah knew something had to change. And it had to change today. Taking his first sip of coffee goodness, it dawned on him that this was perhaps the rarest of occasions, when the church was not only not going to help, but it was making the perceived problems larger than need be. He was beginning to equate church with judgment and hypocrisy, and Noah wanted no part in either. He couldn't change them his way, and they couldn't help him with theirs. The decision was made, the first of many that day. Epiphany. Spending quite a while checking pockets and cushions for any chance he could change. We'll fix that in the next one. For any change he could scrounge up, Noah took a step back and asked God for guidance. He needed to step away from the situation. The shower was on, and scalding hot water began running through the rickety pipes. Pain and pleasure were balanced. Hands pressed up against the tiled wall, water pouring down his forehead, nose, lips, and chin. His mind blank. Tithe! The guidance he was looking for. He felt so strong and justified. He was on a holy mission. Hot turned to cold, shower off, towel dry. Putting on his Sunday best, he then took to raiding his weekly tithe jar. Noah was now ready to go, counting it down to the cent and dumping every penny into his coat pocket. Keys, leash, bag, the pair headed out the front door. Heads held high in excitement. Purpose! You know? And here's a picture of Yang. It's from Kissa in Chile. Printing shop proportions. The local printers were the first stop on Noah and the Prince of Pups' list of places to be that day. Happy resolve oozed from every pore. The door chimed for the store's first visitors of the day. Hello, Yang. I need a few copies of something. The town's master printer accepted the book from Noah's hands, glanced nonchalantly at the pages marked. Still silent, Noah spoke again. I can only afford $3 worth. Noah, why not put it on the church account? Noah fell quiet. Yang pushed further. I just put on that for you. Happy resolve soon turned into an uncomfortable nervousness. Actually, this is a personal project, Yang. I have to pay cash. I just cannot afford more than $3 on this. I just need the rest to buy some chairs. Squinting his eyes in professional disbelief, Yang was not convinced. Still, it sounds like a church project. Church account, okay. Yang was insisting at this point, and Noah could see confusion in his deep, dark, enlivened eyes. Noah could not and would not justify using the church account, so he put the $3 in cash on the counter in front of Yang, looking him straight dead in the eyes for the first time in 24 years. I will be back in an hour or so. See how many you can make for me. And don't use the church's account. Please. God bless Yang. Thank you. An hour came and went like nothing. Garage sale after yard sale, Noah managed to find what he was after. 13 random beach chairs, and his $10 were gone. Barely able to fit it in the Christmobile, Noah and the hound headed back to Yang's. It was 10 o'clock, and his day felt half gone. Time was just flying by, and his first forgiveness meeting hadn't even started yet. Yang was outside having a cigarette with his Smitty's donut holes and black coffee. 1 brown sugar cube. It seemed like everyone had a ritual just to breathe easier these days. Without a word, Yang handed Noah the bag. 2 dozen holes and 1 strawberry sprinkle donut were left untouched. Noah knew which one was for him. Yang knew Noah, perhaps even better than Noah knew himself. Strawberry with sprinkles had been his favorite since he was a small boy. And Smitty's made the best, hands down, crispy on the outside with the soft, warm center. Still silent, Yang handed Noah a fresh coffee. Knowing it took about 8 minutes to walk to Smitty's from Yang's, Noah figured Yang was either done with the pamphlets or never started them at all. Suppressing anxiety, embracing the kind gesture, Noah pulled out his vape pen and took a couple of drags to show he was relaxed and confident, even though he was far from either of these feelings one could get. Watching Yang's lips, fingers, eyes, and chest all move with the rhythm of Noah's long-lost favorite habit, he caught himself and physically shook the thought from his mind. Yang was no blind man. You want? Yang gestured toward his bag of tobacco. No, I got a year under my belt, Noah replied. You still smoking, Noah? Yang laughed. Yeah, 1,000th of the chemicals. Vaping's healthier, Yang. Noah bit into his strawberry sprinkle heaven. His mouth was as full as it could get. I've been breathing better since I swapped. Swigging the coffee to knock back the half-chewed bite. I don't wake up hacking and coughing anymore. You want to try it out? Yang smirked and shook his head as if to say no thanks. Cigarette crackled with a deep pull from his lips. Okay, he spoke on the exhale. The ashtray was put to good use. 2 holes pushed into his hole, careful not to lose a flake of sugary goodness. He then gestured for Noah to go inside. As he pulled a dog treat from his pocket, dropping his body down like a frog onto the balls of his feet, while dusting a bit of sugar on his pants from his one free hand. Yang strategically placed the treat in the center of that palm and extended his arm just enough to entice the prince. Willie took the jerky beef square slowly and gently with his sharp yet selective canines. With a pat on the head, Yang immediately sprang back up, grabbed his human treats of coffee and donut holes, spun around, and followed Noah back inside the shop. Pamphlets were already done. Noah could see them lying on the counter in a perfect stack. Yang handed Noah his copy of a book back. I made 13 trifold. You don't mind. I took the first quote put on the front, so it looked nice. I use more expensive paper. You're a good customer with church, always. I make nothing on this one. Walking around to the other side where his cash register had sat for years, Yang pulled out his own copy of a book. Noah, you have big balls. I no expect. Need more? I'll make, no problem. Book brother. A wink and a nod to finish his thought. Dread crept into Noah's already overactive, anxiety-ridden mind. He couldn't hide any of this from Yang. Went there with Mother every Friday to make copies of coloring sheets for children's mass. Yang had known Noah since he was a small boy. What was worse, Yang knew Mother too well. Yang, can you keep this our little secret? Mother would not approve of my quoting any book that was not the good one, and I honestly don't think the folks at church would understand either. I'm not ready to hear how disappointed God would be with me. You know but Mother better than most. She wouldn't get it. Yeah, lips sealed, she'd flip, Yang replied. Opening his copy of a book, Yang cleared his throat to quote the Dalai Lama. According to Buddhism, reflecting on the reality of suffering never induces either pessimism or despair. It leads to the discovery of the root causes of our plight, desire, hatred, and ignorance, and to a way of freeing ourselves from them. By ignorance, we mean not understanding the true nature of people and things. It gives rise to the other two poisons. When ignorance dissolves, desire and hatred have no foundation, and the source of our suffering has dried up. As a result, we experience spontaneous altruistic happiness that is no longer at the mercy of negative emotions. Closing the book and gently placing it back under his register, Yang smiled knowingly. It was like he understood that something Noah was searching for so desperately. He understood Noah's fear of what those currently closest to him would think, not only because he knew those people, but because Yang had experienced something similar at one point in his own life. It's not so long ago. Noah was clearly scared. "Do you want to be happy, Noah?" Yang said. He nodded his pitiful head yes. "Allow it. You're a good man. Now go. I miss my show." Yang gave his diplomatic goodbye nod and a smile you could feel, even if he didn't let it show in the form of a raised lip and pearly white chompers. Noah set off for the park, scared to death, but resolute. I forgot I put that quote there. Facing the fear. That was very distracting. Realizing that I forgot I put that quote there actually changes a few other things for me. And I'm not really sure how to rectify it. Because when I claimed for my copyright, which I got approved, I put in there, obviously I don't own the quote by Tolstoy. God sees the truth but waits. I didn't write that, Tolstoy did. I quoted him in the book. Well, I forgot that I quoted the Dalai Lama as well. So, apologies, sir. I needed to have put that in my copyright submission. And I don't know how to change it. That's an interesting set of problems. Facing the fear. Just for the record, Noah had marched in front of abortion clinics, preached the word of the Lord on street corners, handed out pocket-sized Bibles to the homeless, and prayed with the young women and men of the night as they walked their tracks. He'd done all of this and much more since he was a small boy. A current veteran witness at age 24. But all that seemed easy now compared to what he was gearing up to do by himself in the park that afternoon. Starting his very first forgiveness meeting, all by his lonesome. Noah knew people were going to think he was a lunatic, but there was no turning back at this point. Noah's mind started to race. What if somebody I know sees me? He couldn't think about that now. It was too late. The park's parking area was absolutely packed on a warm, beautiful Saturday afternoon. Noah was about to exit the lot in search of street parking, and then, as if by fate, a young couple pulled out of the best spot in the whole parking lot. Another divine sign? Perfect parking job, engine off, and the prince crawled out from under the driver's seat, hopping up onto Noah's lap and jumping excitedly into his face, licking his nose, and waiting impatiently for his adventure. Doors open, Noah began to drag out all the random beach chairs from his beat-up Jesus wagon. leaning them haphazardly against the front hood on the sidewalk. Looking around, he noticed all eyes were on him. Actually, they were all glued to the Bible verses that had enveloped his station wagon. From the well-known Jesus loves you all the way to the powerful verses from Revelations discussing the end of times. Noah had never felt this before. Embarrassment. Wishing he found street-side parking, he quickly grabbed as much as he could carry and started off toward the pond near the center of the park. Prince William pulled with all his strength in any direction his little legs could muster. Beach chairs clanging and smashing into his knees and thighs. It was the longest few meters of Noah's life, and he definitely was not turning back now. A meeting for one. Destination reached. The random beach chairs were unfolded in a circle around the ancient-looking willow tree next to the pond positioned in the center of the park. Noah found a few pebbles the size of abnormally large lighters that he found useful in pinning down the forgiveness meeting pamphlets to each seat. He couldn't stop thinking about the coincidence. I had $13. I used 10 of them and got 13 random beach chairs. And the rest was given to Yang to make pamphlets, which he made 13 of. Noah had no idea he would get 13 chairs or that Yang would be making exactly 13 pamphlets, and he most certainly did not know exactly 13 large pebbles would be right where he needed them on the windiest day of the spring season. 13? Why 13? Yet he was no believer in coincidence. His vocabulary had no such thing. He was filled with a sense of hope. A calm peace rushed through him instantaneously. Lord, give me strength. Be my personal armor against sin and impure thoughts. He felt good, really good. He knew he was doing the right thing, attempting to actually do the first step in a book. By attending forgiveness meetings required Attempting to actually do the first step in a book by attending forgiveness meetings required a physical commitment. It also required the ability to face one's fears, head on. This was scary, and again Noah was rendered immobile for several minutes, opening a book and curling up with his mighty little dog under the willow tree. All he could bring himself to do was read and reread the first section. That was it. Strong feeling of flight duking it out with his urge to fight through his fear took place internally. Then almost instantly something clicked in his brain and he understood. This book is about action. It's about change. It's not just for observation like most other books shelved all over the world. Indeed, this singular thought appeared to be paralyzing him. Noah was told repeatedly that life was what it was, and he needed to live it the way he was told to, or he would shame his family and end up in a place called hell. Shame? Hell? Deep down, none of this made any sense at all to Noah. The world he grew up in wasn't even close to being perfect. Heck, half the time it wasn't even tolerable. So there he was, back against the old willow tree's trunk, daydreaming about how the world could be if everyone made just little adjustments. Little adjustments he knew firsthand were excruciatingly hard to make. Time began to pass quite slowly. Noah stood up, dusted himself off, and decided to start. By choosing the faded blue beach chair closest to the pond, it had one of its flat rubber bars that were supposed to give the seat support missing. Noah had to readjust his rear end repeatedly to avoid slipping through onto the soggy wet grass. Noah thought through the whole scenario. If someone falls through this chair, I'd never hear the end of it, and not one person would stay for another meeting again. So Noah took that chair and suffered the consequences. He sat at the meeting for a while by himself on a broken, faded beach chair in a circle with 12 other beach chairs around a tree. An excited dog tied to the willow tree, barking loudly at the birds above, getting up to fix the circle here or there when the wind ripped through, knocking down a few of the chairs once in a while. Noah thought to himself, I forgive myself for not attending church today. And then he thought, now's as good a time to start the meeting as any. I'm deciding to start with myself. I have some forgiveness. I need to give and receive. I don't need other people to start the dialogue in my mind. As long as I'm not talking out loud to myself, no one will think I'm crazy. Hopefully. Whether or not that was sound logic, it was good enough for Noah. He began by coming up with a list of the top 5 things he wanted to address at the first forgiveness meeting. 1. I would like to forgive myself for worrying so much about what other people think of me. 2. Maybe forgive myself for living life for other people, mainly Mother. Noah took a deep breath and continued his meeting within his own head. 3. Forgive my parents. They know not what they've done. 4. I'll forgive myself for being so blinded by my own ignorance and fears. And 5. Forgive myself. Forgive myself for not having it all figured out by now. This horrible feeling came over him. He was a failure. Chapter I can't remember. Hank the Houseless Man. Did I miss any pictures here? Oh no. I really want to do a picture right there of the whole forgiveness meeting scene. I have blank pages, so when you buy the book, draw it in. Write your own subplots, and if you're brave, send it back to me. I'd love to see it. Alright. Hank the Houseless Man. Mosquitoes are brutal, huh? Okay. Hank the Houseless Man. He spent his life coloring within the lines, doing what he was told was correct, even when certain right things didn't sit well with him, justifying his anger and hatred toward others who lived in what he was told was sin, ignoring any pain or unfortunate circumstance that may have led these sinners astray. A blanket of generalized hatred. Sitting alone, facing his trusted dog, still barking up the willow tree, constantly thinking about his rear end slipping through the hole he was sitting on, surrounded by empty beach chairs, Noah started to really question his existence. Why the fuck am I here? His thoughts honed in on the illogic of it all. If I say the word fuck, I'm going to hell and living in sin. Is that even realistic? I know fuck is an aggressive-sounding word, but hell, honestly? It seemed to Noah like the more he learned about what was expected of him by his religion and culture, and the more he saw what was going on in the world around him, the more confused he became about it all. The expectations and realities seemed so far off from each other that none of it was making any sense. His thoughts continued. Since hindsight is 20/20, then right now, looking back, I think it would make more sense if people who took from the poor and gave to the rich were reminded of fire and brimstone, compared to those who were saying the F word. I just don't see how a word is more hellbound than kicking people while they're down. Noah paused. Then again, when I stood out in front of the abortion clinics holding signs about these women being killers, saying I was kicking these ladies while they were down is an understatement. I mean, at least when the rich were raping and pillaging the poor, they didn't hold signs up calling them killers, bound for the fires of hell. Or maybe raping and pillaging is enough damage done and doesn't require a sign. He was headed down a very negative train of thought. Noah had to be very careful because this was exactly why he was here in the first place. I do not want to be like this. Something has to change. He looked around. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Noah had sat by himself for a few hours at this point. It was beginning to feel a bit discouraging. Should I pack all this up and try again tomorrow? Should I have made a sign? The only people around here are homeless alcoholics. I should have picked a better park. He decided to give it another few minutes. Pulling out his watch, staring at it as the second hand went around in circles, and before he knew it, the clock struck 3:30. And that was it. Noah stood up and started gathering the pamphlets. The pebbles used to hold down the pamphlets on each beach chair, were placed in a circle around the willow tree trunk. He figured he could use them again in the morning if he couldn't find a better spot to hold the next meeting at. Hey, you, buddy! Noah heard the man, but didn't reply. Hey, pal, the man persisted. Hey, what time you got there? For an instant, excitement. Was this what Noah was waiting for? He turned around with a smile, ready to start his rehearsed explanation on forgiveness meetings. And then Noah's heart sank. A tinge of fear set in. He was one of those homeless people reeking of whiskey, which made Noah think, isn't that a bit pricey for someone without a home? Then he reasoned with himself that if one did not have a home, it would in turn leave them with more cash to buy a good bottle of Jameson. Noah started to get a bit angry and strangely jealous about that, trying his best to shake off the judgmental thoughts. But they just kept pouring into his cerebral cortex. Looking at the old wind-up watch on his bony wrist, it read 3:33 p.m. Exactly 3:33 p.m. To the minute. Most likely even the second at the rate Noah's day was going. Coincidence? Who knew? All he could think about was the man's myriad of smells simply asking for the time. Who are you to judge this man, Noah? Get out of your head. It's 3:33 p.m. Exactly, Noah said with a fake smile. You don't say. I would have guessed it was later by the looks of that sky, but clearly I've been wrong before. The disheveled man laughed at his own joke. You could tell he was used to it. Noah wasn't sure if it was rude to laugh or not laugh, so he half smiled and awkwardly passed the man a pamphlet. The homeless man didn't ask for a pamphlet, but Noah didn't know how to respond, so by giving it to the man, he hoped it would change the subject, or at best, maybe scare the man away for the moment till Noah could gather his things and skedaddle. No dice. What's this? Some religious nutso-futso stuff? The man scrunched up his face and as though offered chicken feet for the first time. It wasn't a reaction Noah was prepared for, but it was honest, and that was for sure. Not really. It actually has nothing to do with religion. Can you read? Just because I smell a jack and piss doesn't make me illiterate, pal. I'm sorry if I offended you. I tend to be a bit insensitive. I was trying this social experiment. I have been reading about it in this book. The first step is all about participating in forgiveness meetings, so I figured I'd start one myself. I was expecting more people to show up. How many people came? The man said. Well, just me so far, and now you, Noah replied. Walking over to the chairs on the far side of the willow tree, Noah started folding them up one by one. He wasn't in a hurry, so when the man sat on his broken, faded beach chair and picked up the book, Noah decided to take his time and give him a chance to rest. Plus, he was half curious if the man realized it was broken and if the man's butt would fall straight through it. Leaving 2 chairs and his dog tied to the tree, Noah decided to take a risk and start walking a few of the beach chairs back to his Jesus wagon. If the guy took the book or his dog, the lesson would be learned for next time. Noah had a funny feeling that this particular smelly homeless man was not what he seemed. Like he had met a spiritual guide or a prophet and was being tested somehow. It took a while to walk back to the car with 4 chairs clanging against each of his knees, hanging from his forearms. By the time Noah walked back, he could see from a distance that the dog leash was no longer around the tree. How could I have been so stupid? What would possess me to trust a man who doesn't even have a stable place to live? Walking faster than practically running. We gotta fix that one. Noah was blinded by fear, anger, and sadness. Then he stopped. He knew he was wrong. Wrong to the point of embarrassment. As he looked on to the other side of the tree, there was P.W. He was jumping on the homeless guy's face and licking his nose. The two of them looked like they'd been best friends for a lifetime. And P.W. hated most people. Of all the people to decide to finally like, he chose the smelliest, dirtiest man in the city. There was a lesson in all this. There had to be. But all Noah could think about was the smell of piss and whiskey rubbing off on his small dog's coat. Going back and forth between guilt for having such judgmental thoughts and wishing the guy would just leave already, so he didn't have to feel so uncomfortable. Noah justified all this with the fact that he didn't even have $1 to give the man if he wanted to. None of it made any sense. Even if he knew that on some basic level, deep down he knew there was more to this man than how he smelled and looked. Noah could see the fading twinkle of wisdom that wasn't quite beaten out of him yet. Always prepared, Noah had an extra Bible in the wagon and an extra travel blanket. Guilt eating away at his insides, Noah wanted to give this man something, so that he didn't feel like a jerk when he left the man alone to face the night. Was that self-righteous? What would Jesus have done? He couldn't very well invite some strange, smelly homeless guy into his home just because he was nice to his dog. Noah was feeling a little guilty about having his initial Judgy McJudgerson episode. So, Noah did what he usually did. Whenever he got awkward or uncomfortable, he started to preach. When was the last time you went to the house of God and searched for forgiveness for your sins? I thought you said this wasn't religious. Was that just a trick? I thought this whole circle thing was for forgiveness. And now you're telling me I gotta go to church and all that shit? Look, pal, going to church is all fine and dandy when you have something to give those folks. But when you look like me, let's just say I have seen more back doors of churches than front doors. So what's really going on here? The man continued to pet the prints, not moving an inch. I'm sorry. I apologize. A few minutes of reflective silence, then Noah continued. I'm just going to be brutally honest, you make me uncomfortable. I'm not used to being around homeless people unless I'm dishing out food at the pantry behind the church. What I am doing here isn't religious, but I am. I'm doing this forgiveness meeting thing because I feel lost, unhappy, and stuck. Have you ever felt that way? I mean, I even had a meeting at church and I didn't even show up today. I came here instead. Noah took a seat against the willow's trunk, completely deflated. Something has to change in my life, sir, or I will keep drowning in my guilt and regrets. I literally have gotten to the point where I pretty much just hate everyone. And anytime someone lies or cheats or steals, I have this intense urge to just shake them and scream at them for bringing our world down to the pits of hell with their actions. There's something severely wrong with that. And the kicker is, most of my family and a good portion of the congregation I belong to are pretty much all the same way. I'm beginning to feel sick about the whole thing. I'm not even sure why I'm alive anymore. What's the point? Noah couldn't believe he just said all that. It was as if he just finished clawing at his own skin and scraping it all off so that the stranger could see the ugliness of his insides. Noah got even more uncomfortable. Standing up, He went over to grab the book and the pamphlets from the man's hands. Forget it, it's stupid. Just forget all about it. The man blocked him without any sign of aggression. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa there, buddy. Stop right there. Take a seat. The man motioned for Noah to sit next to him. Hesitating, Noah sat on the edge of the red flower print beach chair, trying not to be his usual rude self. Look, pal, not one of us is perfect. We should all be slowing down and humbling ourselves because we are not the only ones on this big ball of rocks. As far as I can tell, we're all just a bunch of selfish assholes running around screaming, "Look at me, give me what I want, and look at me." I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but I mean, look at me. I'm a mess of a human being. You would never think for 1 second that I used to have more than one house. I had a beautiful wife. I had a great career. We are all roaming this planet in search of reason, purpose, or a personality. Personally, I could use a bit of forgiveness myself. I haven't even been able to look at myself in a mirror, any mirror, for years now. I have nightmares about meeting anyone from my past, laughing at the pathetic old man that I've become, telling me how great life got once I left. Now, if I can't even look at myself in the godforsaken mirror, what makes you think I'd step foot in a building where judgment and fear fester? Getting defensive, Noah blurted out, "We're not all that bad. We help people." With an eyebrow raised, the man took a deep breath, mustering up as much empathy as he could, and he went on. "Really? By the looks of it, you couldn't wait to get rid of me." "What kind of help is that?" "I could see it in your face. You thought I took off with your dog just a few minutes ago. You automatically assumed that since I smelled a whiskey and piss, I could and would just steal from you. Like it's a reflex for people in my circumstances." I never said that," Noah replied. "You're telling me that if I sat next to you in your beloved church, you wouldn't slide down to the other end of the bench or crinkle your nose and make a comment to anyone who would listen?" "That's doubtful, pal." Defensively shriveling under the truth, Noah stood up and took a seat next to his smelly new friend. The truth began to flow from his 24-year-old lips. "You're probably right. Your smell is driving me up the wall, and I have wanted you to leave since the moment you arrived. Sorry for being so rude and transparent." "Was that so hard to admit, pal?" "Look, I forgave you the moment I saw your expression. I'd also hate my smell if I wasn't used to it. I mean, in fact, I partially smell like this on purpose. It keeps folks from getting too close. Like a sort of safety bubble. It works pretty good, don't it?" A light chuckle broke the mood, and they both relaxed. "If you don't mind me being honest and working through my judgments, I don't mind if you decide to join in on this forgiveness meeting with me tomorrow. I promise not to force-feed religion. By the way, what's your name, sir?" There's that sir again, huh? Well, you can call me Hank. Well, my name's Noah, and I would be honored if you would show up. I will be here from 11 to 3. The man named Hank thought about it. I guess I could clear my schedule." As Noah would very soon learn, Hank was a stickler about his schedule, and boy, did he have one. Last chapter of part 1. We're making it. We're getting through it. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. An evening service. After Noah's first forgiveness meeting, he took his time getting back to the empty apartment called home, mentally rehearsing his best sick cough. For the evening service was just part of the plan to miss tomorrow's Sunday morning mass. A mother's direct and imposing disapproval. Noah considered both of these pseudo-sacrifices well worth making. considering present circumstances. In order to survive the week, he knew a cameo appearance at tonight's service with a sick cough was a must, hence the sick cough practice. Noah figured if he could fool the folks tonight, word would get back to Mother and she might leave him be for a day or two. Noah found himself daydreaming as he was getting changed. What would it be like if he had stayed home to nap and bark at cats through the window while Prince William suffered through that evening's service? By then, compassion set in, not wishing his ridiculously pointless existence on anyone, let alone the only living being he cherished. Have you ever thought like that? Like, man, what if I could just switch bodies with my creature, my cat or my dog, and I could just stay at home and lounge and they could go to work and be miserable. You know? Or go to school or whatever, you know? Play the rat race game. To swap you. Body swap. Noah decided he'd suffer through it for the both their sakes. After putting on Father's old penny loafers, as if for the last time, Noah turned to his hound dog. "I'll be back shortly, William. Enjoy your nap for the both of us." "Hey, Will, you want to go to church for me? And I'll nap for you?" he said, half joking. P.W. crawled further under the blanket on the couch and gruffed in reply. I guess that's a no." He laughed as he grabbed his jacket and started down his front steps to his still-running Jesus wagon. Noah could hold it in no longer. He began laughing hysterically to the point of tears. One of the very few benefits of having a vehicle no one wanted, and in the POS category, was that even if it was left running on a Saturday night in the center of one of the roughest neighborhoods, no one, and I repeat, no one, wanted to be caught dead taking his ride for a ride. Fashionably late, Noah hit the road, still crying from laughter. "Hey, Noah, you're late, man. Where were you today? You missed the outreach meeting. Don't worry, I took notes for you. We put you in charge of the booth next Saturday with Yolanda. We figure you wouldn't mind." Randy was interrupted. "Shh!" An uptight newly born again made it very clear he was there for worship. "I saved a cupcake. That politician brought them in." Randy unwrapped his booty of cupcake treasures, showing Noah what he believed he missed out on. "Shush!" The juiced-up Jesus look-alike put his gigantic hand on Randy's shoulder and unleashed his best pre-religious death stare on the two men talking in front of him, giving the impression that they better follow suit and shut their mouths or face the wrath of more shushing. Noah looked down at the huge Satan tattoo that took over the man's entire forearm. He could see that Jesus holding a sword to the devil's throat was a new addition based on the clarity of the ink and bright colors of the sword compared to the dull satanic horns and pointed tongue. Not wanting to upset the grizzly bear any further, Noah apologized and signaled to Randy to cut it out. Randy was in Noah's outreach group. They met every Saturday afternoon to plan their weekly event in any town that hadn't banned them yet, within a 100-mile radius. Noah missed today's meetings to start his first forgiveness meeting. Randy had no idea, and Noah planned on keeping it that way. Randy was about 28 years old, 4 years older than Noah, but the pecking order wasn't based on age. Leadership in the outreach group was determined by how on fire one was for the Lord's word. You could say Noah was on fire with regards to the word of the Lord, active in practicing what he was taught to preach. Up till that point, Noah had not been beaten. Noah attended every meeting, knew every Bible verse, and not only participated in every church outreach, but started most of them. By the time the night service was over, Noah had mentally gone through every scenario he could think of for the following Saturday's event. The two most likely outcomes ended with him feeling like a total hypocrite, and he thought to himself, Option 1. So I show up, help them set up for the event. So I show up, help them set up for an event I don't agree with in the first place, stand at a booth, and promote our outreach group with Yolanda, a woman who would probably rob a blind homeless man while preaching the good word of our Lord and Savior, then justify that stealing the man's money was doing him some sort of favor somehow. Then I'd probably be asked to do the entire event cleanup so the rest of the Wednesday night group could go out to dinner with the greaseball politician and slithering tax collector guy to chat more about how they can work the system, avoid paying the full carbon tax they spent the whole day selling to the rest of the congregation is a great idea and the work of the Lord. This is bullshit. Option 2, I show up a bit later so I don't get stuck doing all the setup work while the fat, lazy, self-righteous slobs schmooze with our pastor and the guests of honor. Still get stuck in the outreach booth with Yolanda, the know-it-all queen of the liars. Still get stuck on cleanup and still leave pissed off. Or option 3, I somehow grow a pair of balls and tell them that taxing the already overtaxed for breathing is wrong, and that politics and religion have no business mixing. Or maybe I get really lucky and a semi-truck drives 200 miles an hour straight into my broken down scrap metal of a wagon, killing me instantly and putting me out of my misery before the event even starts. Noah knew that third scenario was just as likely as the fourth. His backbone was made of silly putty. So after Mass, when Randy went over the details of the following Saturday's sacrilegious event, at a safe enough distance from the ex-Hells Angels dude, Noah put on his best fake smile and told his friend he'd of course be there. Randy gave him a big hug with a wholesome, "God bless you. See you next Saturday, brother," then walked over to the hot new converts that had just joined the human trafficking awareness group. There was no doubt that he was going to try to bring them over to the church outreach. That was Randy. Always Randy. Anyway, back to Noah. Exhaling and loosening his tie, thinking the worst of it was over, and then... Hey! Noah! Shit. I can't stand you, woman. You ruin everything good. I don't think I will ever make it through a full day in that booth with just you. Noah knew that if he said half the things he thought to himself, well, let's just say the face would be red from slaps. Hello, Yolanda. How's Jerry? Noah managed his well-rehearsed niceties. God be praised, he is doing much better. His cancer has gone into remission since the last treatment. The doctor says no stress. Giggling nervously and fidgeting with her cardigan, Yolanda waved to Brent, the pastor in charge of the outreach and church offices. Once he passed, Yolanda resumed talking to Noah as if nothing had happened. So I have been the perfect wife as always, of course. Jerry hasn't lifted a finger in weeks. I've even been surprising him with his favorite takeout every day. He'd be here, of course, because he is so thankful the Lord has saved his life. But missing his leg and all, I told him to just rest. I sat him up on his favorite recliner, and he has been catching up on all the pre-recorded shows on the satellite TV. So I'm sure he's happy as little piglet. With a new burst of confidence, she continued, "How's your mother? She missed you today. She was disappointed you weren't at the outreach meeting this morning. Very unlike you," she said. "Very disappointed." "Don't tell her I told you, but I think you do so much. Taking a day off doesn't harm here or there. I told her that you are wonderful and helpful, and we love having you lead our ministry." Yolanda was full of empty compliments. Thoughts started to run rampant in Noah's near-exploding brain. Poor Jerry. The only thing I'd regret if I were him were not getting faster-acting cancer to put me out of my misery sooner. Compassion soon dwindled as memories triggered feelings of irritation. Jerry's just as bad. Always ratting me out to Mother whenever I was late to Mass. I bet this is all karma. You're such a lying sack of manure, you crazy lady. You'd just as soon trip me over train tracks to take my place. You're probably the one who told Mother I didn't attend the meeting today. Knowing you called Mother just to tell her the news yourself. Noah always thought his preferred responses to Yolanda, but they never made it past his closed lips. His thoughts continued. It made having to listen to her rubbish worth the seconds of wasted time. Why couldn't it be Yolanda to lose her leg? At least Jerry is an honest asshole. Yolanda lies straight to your face, stabs you in the back at every chance she gets, and then demands an apology when you catch her being dishonest. Waterworks, a professional, tears on command. If being nasty were a superpower, she'd have it. I bet she collects the fears and screams of children in a jar, giving her strength to lie another day. Noah began picturing Yolanda and Jerry in creepy villain costumes like you'd see in old-time comics from the 80s. Well, see you next Saturday, Booth Buddy. So excited to outreach with you. I have so much to learn. You're such an inspiration to us all, Noah. Yolanda placed her sweaty palm on Noah's shoulder. You are truly blessed to be such a wonderful instrument of the Lord, and at such a young age. I will tell Jerry you sent your blessings. Tell your dear, wonderful mother hello, and I'll see you both tomorrow, I'm sure. God bless, Yolanda. I'm not feeling great, so I might not make it. Noah did his best fake cough. I'll see you before Saturday if I'm feeling better. Oh, you poor thing. Feel better soon. You wouldn't want to miss Saturday now. It's supposed to be one of our biggest events yet. Yolanda said with a sneaky smile and raised eyebrow. Noah knew this meant she was up to no good, and he'd regret whatever she did later. But he wasn't scared for the first time in his life. Not only that, it didn't seem to bother him nearly as much as it used to. Noah felt strong. Yeah, wouldn't want that, Noah mustered every ounce of energy he could just to pull out a half-hearted smile of false appreciation for her attempt at relaying concern for his actual well-being. Fed up, he quickly moved past Yolanda and practically jogged back to the station wagon. Noah couldn't get back to his apartment fast enough to wash Yolanda's essence off his shoulder. Noah really had no interest in next Saturday's debacle, and no interest in thinking about dealing with Mother. When she realized he wasn't showing up at Mass tomorrow, all he wanted to think about was forgiveness meetings, his new homeless friend Hank, and what he would bring to his second ever forgiveness meeting the following morning. Well, he would just cross that uncomfortable bridge when he got to it. That's the end of part 1. That's almost 2 hours. Well done, us. I started to get a little choppy in my reading toward the end there. Well, maybe toward the whole thing. Like I said, if I sell enough books and I can afford it the next go-around, I'd love to hire some voiceover actors to do this whole thing. Just hire actors and just do the whole thing as a movie, you know? The next section is uncomfortable changes. And the one after is free cycling and free marketing. And that concludes part 1 of Jesus Loves Your History by Ashlie Christie. If you'd like to get your copy, you can check out www.jesuslovesyourhistory.com or go to any of your local bookstores and give them the ISBN number or the title and the author, and they should be able to order it for you. Maybe you can do me a solid and ask them to put it on the shelves. That would be awesome. Alrighty. Well, next is uncomfortable changes. Love you. Thank you.